Okay, today I'm going to talk about focus and why it's so important and why it's actually a natural part of our makeup, a part of our constitution. Our spiritual being is both the fundamental reality of just changeless being, and it's also the becoming or the intent or the desire or the creative principle. And I feel like for a variety of reasons, we put the creative principle in our shadow. Maybe because when we were children and we, took up energy and space, we were shut down for it. So we became even more so observers, right? And then you hear spiritual teachings, and then a spiritual teaching really gets you even more in that observer perspective, because they teach you, oh yeah, the whole point is to go beyond the mind and just observe, when really that's just step one in spiritual awakening. Step one in spiritual awakening is realize that you are not the personal mind, right? You are not the momentum of conditioning that is playing out. So you start off completely stuck to form, stuck to personal narrative, stuck to the idea that you are a body, and then you discover, or awareness discovers itself. So, but the thing is that we are not meant to just observe our lives. And if you notice that when your life is missing a balance between observation and intent, observation and focus, observation and and focusing your mind, right? First of all, I want to get the word mind out of the shadow, right? Because if we're not careful with spiritual conditioning, we could put mind in the shadow. The whole universe is mind, right? That's a hermetic principle. And that is, if you have that experiential knowledge, right, you see that it's true. In my experience, life is very malleable, liquid, light-like, right? That's how I see it. That's how I see it. I see it as this sparkling reality that is not solid. When we open our eyes, right, we are looking into our own mind. We're looking into our own mind. And that is very malleable. So first of all, let's continue with, let's not put mind in the shadow. The whole universe is mind. Universe, the dreamer's mind, right? It's the dreamer's mind, the mind of God. And everything within the dream is made of the dreamer's mind, is made of God, right? So everything is God. And everything is a hologram of the one. So we are creators in the same way that the mind of God has created us as characters, right? We are that as well. And we are creating our lives, and word and thought does create, and word and thought is also divine. You cannot divide consciousness. You cannot say that thought is not divine. Let's not put thought in the shadow. Let's not disown thought. What we're disowning in spirituality is the idea that you are completely identified with thought, right? Awareness is not aware of itself. You are identified with the momentum of thinking, with the known, right? With the known, what you've been told, what you've learned, what you've experienced, your impressions, right? Your own personal past, the race's conditioning. That's what we're going beyond. That doesn't mean that mind is not a part of us. The unborn, right? It manifests, it births itself, and it acts upon thought. And thought creates. And so I really want to energize this idea. Do not put the fact that you are a creator in your shadow. Don't disown it. Don't merely observe. Don't put thinking and thought and creation. Don't put any of that in your shadow. We're not meant to just be one half of ourselves, right? We're meant to embody our whole being, which is both the stillness and the movement, right? It's not just one. we start being completely absorbed in the movement, then we journey back towards the stillness where we find a sense of freedom and a sense of solace. But if you stay there, you're still avoiding a part of yourself. And this fundamental nature is meant to express freely into form. So we have the sense mind, right? So I'm going to talk about really how important it is to focus and not merely observe. Not merely observe, right? You have the sense mind, right? Which is your senses. Smell, hear, taste, touch. I forgot. Smelling, hearing, tasting, touching, seeing. Okay. And then so your senses take in information, then they get interpreted by conditioning. And so you think you understand reality based on what's coming in through the senses, what's coming in through the senses and being interpreted by the mind. You think that's what reality is. So when we go beyond that, right, when we find the dimension of awareness and we feel we are aware also not only up here, but in our heart, we see the fullness and the divinity of life and how its substance is not solid. It's not there's no really, you could say, objective world of things. There's just this kind of plasma that's being molded by our understanding. So we have the sense mind, right? Sensing reality. Then we have the conditioned mind, interpreting reality. So what does it mean to go beyond the senses, right? To go beyond the senses, the way that I understand it and the way that I would like to speak about it, you know, there's that one aspect about overcoming your addictions, desires, right? Training your body. You know, if you're trying to learn how to meditate, but your body wants coffee at 6 a.m., you know, you tell your body no, right? It's acting on the known, it's acting on what's familiar. It's acting on maybe smells. That's part of overcoming the senses. But really what overcoming or transcending or going beyond mastering the senses means that you don't take what your sense mind and your conditioning tells you is reality to be real, because it's not. Because reality, you are the light of consciousness, and reality is being projected through you, through your understanding. You're looking at the life that you're looking at is your mind. You're looking at your mind. So in spiritual teachings, we're taught just to accept what is, but yet we're creating what is. We're creating what is. And so don't you see how that could be an endless hamster wheel of just remaining in the same understanding? So the light of consciousness projects itself through belief, identity and belief, and then you observe it in the world, and then you're taught to just accept it, accept it, accept it. And sure, accepting what is, the spiritual teaching to accept what is, all it means is to stop fighting it. Stop making it wrong. Stop making you wrong. Stop making any aspect of God wrong. That means any other being, any part of your life, anything your mind, your conditioned mind is the only thing that perceives flaws, right? So you have your inner mind, you could say, like the substratum of all life, which is the mind of God. And it doesn't understand duality. So when the sense mind starts complaining and finding flaws, that's why there's a dissonance, right? Because this sees duality, and this sees imperfection, and this only knows perfection, right? So that's why there's a dissonance when you fight with someone, when you fight with yourself, when you find something wrong with your life. But the thing is, if you allow your senses, right, what you see, hear, smell, taste, touch, what your mind is telling you, oh, I don't have a romantic partner right now, so that means I'm going to be alone forever. That means I'm unworthy. That means I'm a failure. So the reason why that feels so awful is because the inner mind only knows perfection, right? The perfection of itself, the perfection of itself. So why is it so important to actually take this inner mind's knowing of perfection and bring it forward into the world of form, right? So that means into the world of energy. There's awareness and then energy and form. So choosing a frequency or embodying a tone, a sound, which could just be this soft joy of wholeness, right? If you tune into your heart and you just feel your heart, there's this just soft joy of wholeness. And to really occupy that, right? Instead of just observing, right? We are just observing what we've already created and reacting to it. That doesn't make any sense because it was projected by me through my mind's understanding onto the screen of life. And now I'm reacting to it as if it's bad or real when I created it in the first place through my own understanding of my misunderstanding being that I'm not perfect as I am, that I'm not a creator, that I can't choose to embody the frequency of wholeness. So yeah, stop fighting with what is, because it's just an image on the screen that you are creating. So if you don't focus, you will just pick up, right? When I love that line in The Power of Now, when the master is not home, all sorts of shady characters get in. If you are only observing, right, the master's not really home. The master's not really home. It is home. The master's kind of home because it can observe things and actually make choices, like avoid things, not unconsciously play out things. But it's not till the master is really all the way home, meaning pressed into reality, meaning embodying a frequency. Presence itself is a kind of frequency. Presence is a soft joy of being. If you don't embody that somatically, the only thing that can play out is your conditioning, right? And conditioning is mostly negative because it's based on survival. So it's based on finding fault and flaw and threat, because the separate self feels threatened, so it perceives threat everywhere, right? So you have your inner mind, right, knowing the perfection of all life, but you're back here in your inner mind observing your outer mind. Oh my God, I'm threatened. Oh my God, I'm a failure. Oh my God, I'm ugly, I'm fat. And you can stay back here and observe forever. And this thing will just keep going, keep going, keep going. So it's a somatic feeling of occupying the mind, occupying your life, your moment, not just up here, right? Not just observing, but in the heart, in the belly, right? Because when you really occupy the moment, you're not merely observing. Your creative essence is here, is present, radiating its vibration. And your true vibration is genius and love. So when you decide to literally try these verbal cues, fill out the moment. Feel your energy expanding, right? Feel your energy expanding. Feel the energy from your heart radiating outwards. Feel a connection from your crown to your heart, to your solar plexus, to your root chakra. Feel all of those here and feel yourself here in a very vivid way. Because if you're not here, if you don't start to entrain yourself to reoccupy this reality, then you're just going to stay back here and observe, right? Go beyond the mind. Okay, sure, I'm beyond the mind, but I'm just watching it create havoc, right? And so it's the same thing with empaths. If you do not create, which is a part of who you are, we're not meant to stay back here in observation. If you don't create, you're going to just observe what is, which you created. You're going to observe all of the countless vibrations and thoughts in the universe, right? Because if you're just back here passively listening to the radio, there's all kinds of radio waves. There's all kinds of sounds. So while it might feel safe for many to discover the dimension of awareness and going beyond thought, right? I'm saying go back into the mind in a feeling sense. You don't have to use thoughts to make you feel differently. You just have to discover that there's a somatic, easy way to fill out the moment, right? Particularly feeling the heart. choosing a frequency that's accessible to you, wholeness, joy, fun. I just, by saying that word, I felt my cells vibrate faster. And it's not about holding a thought like tightly. It's just about just softly occupying this moment somatically. Because otherwise you'll get nowhere in life. You'll just observe. You've created, reality is like this plasma. I have seen it. It's like this plasma that's programmable, right? But we created it. We created the families that we incarnated into. We chose the astrological energy that we incarnated into. We created these things, right? And then you're taught that, okay, just watch what happens in life and just accept what is, don't make it wrong. Sure, that's like step one. Don't fight with anything, right? Because that causes a conflict between the inner mind and the outer mind. The outer mind fools you into thinking you're a separate self because of the senses and the conditioning, because of the ability to sense vibration and tell a story about it. It makes you think that you're separate from the inner mind, but you're not, right? So the point is, you want to, in the energy of your inner mind, don't stay back and observe, watching your mind all day, watching the thoughts all day. You want to press yourself in. So it's not really going beyond thought. Going beyond thought is discovering awareness. This is more about almost like dissolving thought, because when you're really present, it's a lot more quiet, and the thoughts that do occur to you are more creative. They're more life-giving. They're more supportive of the whole. I really don't resonate with this idea in some ancient spiritual teachings that there's this hierarchy of, like, if you're a scientist, if you're an artist, if you are expressing genius in the world in some way, you're still identified as an ego, and ultimately the goal is to just become completely absorbed back into source. And I honestly cannot tell you whether that is true or false. It doesn't resonate with me for whatever reason. What resonates with me is bringing the genius of source into this world, into your life. And that may mean, I saw an amazing interview with Patrick Flanagan, who was the reincarnation of Nikola Tesla. He came in remembering how to build a Tesla coil. He remembered the diagrams of things that Tesla, and in his last life, he created technology that made some people a bit ill because it was misused. So he came back as the genius that he is, and he started teaching people about pyramid technology and about how to protect themselves from the technology, so that it's like the natural evolution of himself as a genius. That's the natural evolution of himself. When I saw that interview, I said, oh my God, we waste so much time being distracted. We waste so much time with just mediocrity, just tuning into other people's lives, just staying in observation and watching our mind all day, blah, 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 blah. Aren't you sick of it? Aren't you tired of it? Isn't it draining? Aren't you ready to be a genius? And that doesn't mean you have to solve world hunger. That doesn't mean you have to do anything in particular, but there's the game of life is set up to make you suffer if you are not yourself. And what is yourself? Yourself is the eternal unchanging part of you, and it's also the creative principle. It's also the creative principle, which is also eternal, by the way. At least from what I've seen, even the temporary characters are eternal. So it's like, what are you doing with your life? Are you just watching your mind all day? Have you stopped there? Have you stopped? Are you just watching your mind? Is your mind still going a million miles an hour? There is something you can do about it. If your mind is racing, you are avoiding a feeling, right? The more stressed out and spinning you become, it's like there's a backlog of avoidance. Like there's just you've piled up lots of moments of avoidance, and so it's like a teapot that wants to, right? So you slow down and you just feel, and you let the energy disperse, and then you make more decisions, right? Let's take intention out of the shadow. Let's take making decisions out of the shadow. Spiritual conditioning can make you believe that, in a sense, like, there's something called choiceless awareness, right? And so what I'm talking about, making decisions, is still choiceless awareness, because intention and lack of intention is a dance, that is a rhythm that is natural to us. And once you get back in the rhythm, it doesn't feel like you're a separate self making choices. It feels like you're back in the Tao, back in the Tao of being human, which is being involved and radiating energy and kind of hands off, hands on, hands off. So don't merely observe, right? You can listen to that teaching 100 million times and never get it, because you don't actually put the YouTube video down and do the practice, which is fill out this moment. Figure out within your constitution how you can cue yourself into a somatic experience of being full in this moment, full, radiating yourself. It's the difference between radiating yourself and just passively listening to all the information in the universe, like so many empaths do. And I'm an empath, right? I know very well how much information is out there, but what good does it do? Like, why am I just sitting back listening to it all? It doesn't concern me, right? It doesn't concern me. What concerns me is being myself, which is the mind of God, as this character, as this individual. That's the other thing. The end of ego is not the end of individuality. It's not the end of your unique flavor. It's not the end of you being a channel and a conduit of genius. It is not. So really ask yourself, like, how can I be more? How can I take up energy in this moment more? Can I make more intentions of what I will focus on, right? When you're in a car ride for an hour, when you're on the bus, on the subway, not in the shower. I think in the shower, I just kind of like bliss out. But you have so many moments in the day where it's spent like just observing your thought. You're just picking up and observing and then reacting to it. Where the alternative, instead of being behind the glass, just looking at the glass and like reacting to it, you could actually, you could actually occupy this moment and what's available to you, because source wants to channel itself into form. It's all of a sudden you have access to so much intelligence. So what is, right? Being present in this world of form is actually kind of the key to ascension, because God is you are trying to channel yourself into form. That's the movement into form. And if you stay back and just observe, you're going to be dissatisfied. You're going to be a little empty and you're going to be drained, because you haven't discovered the balance yet between focus and letting go. It's not all letting go. It's a balance of both. So that's my message for today.